Hey, I'm Blake Smith.
And I'm Matt King.
And we are the Video On Podcast.
That's right. And on this episode, we'll be sharing some examples of holiday videos we've made in the past and some tips on how to make your own.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Video On Podcast. And this episode is gonna have a little bit of a festive vibe to it, as you can see by my sweet Street Fighter ugly Christmas sweater that I'm rocking right now.
I honestly don't think it's that ugly. If you people are actually watching the video and not just listening to the audio, this is nice. Burgundy, a little yellow representation. You got Ken and Ryu on there.
Yeah.
It's really sweet. I'm just trying to sport like a nice little green zip up. You know, that's.
You got the class, I got the fun.
Yeah, I know. I used to be different. You know, I grew up with a mullet. You know, as a kid, so as you've seen the photo proof of. So I used to be a lot more party in the back, so I've tried to clean up my act a bit.
It's pretty funny because one of the younger colleagues here thought it was Dragon Ball Z, and I was like, no.
That's awkward.
No. But now thinking about it, Dragon Ball Z then just doesn't. But we're not here to talk about Street Fighter versus Dragon Ball Z and what's on my sweater.
That's right. It's happy holidays.
So today we want to talk about holiday videos, and especially when it comes to creating a holiday video to show off your culture.
That's right.
Now, we've done quite a few in our previous years, and I guess we're not even really doing one this year. We're doing one more from a marketing side to send to our broader audience. But that being said, still doesn't mean that doing a culture video is a fun thing to do when it comes to the holiday season. So in the past, we've done things where it's an homage to movies or a song, right, or just those classic, I guess you could call it. We'll speak of one right now. Just a little tease, I guess. Was "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," or what would you say that was? What was "The Night Before Christmas"? Like what do you say? That's a classic Christmas tale. Story, I guess you would say.
Yeah, totally.
So you can pull on all those types of things, and that's kind of an example that we've kind of did one. So
yeah, we've had a lot of fun, and yeah, despite the fact that we're not necessarily doing like a full-blown like our company specific culture one, yeah, we're still releasing a holiday video that's through our marketing channel. So it was produced involving a lot of the team members, and they end up having some big feature roles in the video, which is again a great way to kind of get some of the different personalities in the video, which is great. But all year round we're producing all different kinds of these videos to release on social, put on the blog, send out to people, just have a little fun, show off the personality a bit, but we'll get into that obviously.
Yeah, and so like when we do culture videos, especially with the holiday season, I guess to start it off, when we go about doing this, it's generally just to show off our fun side and just the culture that we have within the organization, and mainly it is to live externally amongst our social channels and whatnot, just so our customers, our audience, whoever can see just this side of us, but also at the same time, it's a good way to. It's a good use case is to have it internally as well. Like most companies, they generally have some type of Christmas celebration or a holiday celebration, and that's also a good time to showcase this said culture video.
Yeah, we usually do kind of like a release at the party, right? We have a screen, we play it, everybody and their significant others, whoever they choose to bring, friends, family, whatever, they get to see it as well, And
let's be real, and these are generally on the more silly side. I can't say I've ever seen a holiday video that was serious.
Yeah, we don't really take ourselves too seriously, particularly when it comes to these videos. We just try and have some fun.
So, and then that's generally what it is. You're just pulling for a laugh and whatnot, and especially when you have, as you said, like the loved ones and whatnot around, it's just nice to show that piece off.
That's right, for sure.
So that being said, and as I teased, there's the different ways you can go about, inspiring that creativity when it comes to creating a holiday culture video. We generally pull from the three that I mentioned, being whether it's an homage to a movie, a Christmas song or carol, or just a classic tale. So that being said, we'll just riff on those three for now. So of those three, what do you want to start with?
Let's start with the song, like a familiar song. Yeah, Christmas song. That's fun.
We can do the song. So I guess what we can talk about is kind of our thought processes going into that, and what we can also do is we can show an example.
Yeah, that's right, for those that are watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now reach it up, stretch. Stretch it high. Stretch that body.
I don't want a lot this season. There is just one thing I need. I don't care about the presents underneath the festive tree. I just want views for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true. Maybe all I want this season is views. I don't want a lot this season. There is just one thing I need. I don't care about the presents underneath the festive tree. I don't need to hang my stocking there upon the fireplace. And Vidyard will make me happy with a toy these holidays. I just want views for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true, baby. All I want this season is views, views, baby. Oh, I won't ask for much this season. I won't even wish for snow. And I'm just gonna keep on waiting underneath the mistletoe. I won't make a list and send it to the North Pole or Vidyard. I won't even stay awake to hear reindeer on the rooftop. 'Cause I just want views here tonight, analyzing them just right. What more can I do? Baby, all I want this season is views, views, baby. All the lights are shining so brightly everywhere, and the sound of colleagues' laughter fills the air, and everyone is singing. I hear those sleigh bells ringing. Viva, won't you bring me the one I really need? Won't you please give my viewers to me? Oh, I don't want a lot this season. This is all I'm asking for. I just wanna see all those views. There is nothing I want more. I just want views for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true, baby. All I want this season is views, views, baby.
So that was an example of us producing a holiday video that obviously paid tribute to a classic Christmas song.
Let me tell you, you sounded great and you looked great too. So
Well, let's be real, like, just look at me.
you're a shining beacon of light.
I was wearing this sweater
Yeah. That's right.
in that video.
Credits to Stephanie Yee.
Yeah.
For
She's
being
really
the
good.
voice, for being the singer. She's actually a really good singer. And so everything we do with these types of videos, obviously it's on like $0 budget. So we just, pull people in, record them. And obviously, in this example, we had to rewrite a song.
Yeah, we had to jig it so it's a little bit. We had to jig it so it kind of fit the business, because it was. And if you don't know, obviously, what this song is spoofing, it is Mariah Carey's classic, "All I Want for Christmas Is You," whereas we spun it being, "All I Want this season is views,"
Ba, ba, ba.
because we work for a video company, and views.
Kind of important.
Yeah, you want people watching your video, right?
So we had a little fun putting that together, and again, obviously, it's a great way once you kind of like put together that initial idea of how we want to do it. It's a great opportunity to like kind of put out a casting call to anybody that wants to stick around. For this one, it was after hours, so it was a great opportunity to kind of like put out the casting call, and people just kind of like sign up on a sheet, raise their hand, say, "Yeah, I'll totally stick around," dress up a little bit, and like we'll try and give whoever we can parts to, in this case, lip sync and like act out or whatever, just to have a little bit of extra fun. It's very much on the fly, loose and colorful. Like we don't overthink the process too much. We have a few key ideas, and then we just kind of run from there.
Yeah.
Take a few hours and
that too. Also, like when it came to using Stephanie as the singer, it really came down to relying on our colleagues and people who we have available to us, and knowing that she is quite the singer, we figured, why not loop her in and have her record it. So all I did really was took the lyrics of the song and tweaked just a few of them. The rest of them are pretty much the same. And I just used GarageBand on the MacBook and brought her into the studio and just recorded it, and just recorded in chunks. And then, like, let's be real, I'm not a music producer and have much experience recording singers and mixing it with the instrumental and all that stuff. So
hey, listen, you could have fooled me.
I did the best that I could based off my knowledge when it comes to that stuff.
I thought you did great. So I think obviously for people that are listening, they're kind of like figuring probably by this point, like why even do this kind of thing? What's the point of going to this extra effort to do it? Take a time after hours to go and make this thing. Great, I understand, it's the culture video. You want to show off people smiling from your organization. Whoop-de-doo, Basil. What does it all mean? What's, like, from your perspective, what does it mean to make a culture video besides the obvious, show your people? Like, what's the side benefit? Maybe it kind of relates back to business. We've heard from people in emails, like, that respond back to these things, what they have to say.
Well, yeah, and I think too, what it comes down to is just, we're showing off our brand, and that is a part of our brand, is having just based off of what we do when it's just standard marketing material, or when we do campaigns throughout the year. We generally have this lighter side to us, and we like to have fun with things. So when we were doing this video, we thought, why not have a little bit of fun? And especially with the song, people either really love the song or they really hate the song. So the idea was just to really just entertain. So it wasn't just to show, as you've mentioned, just our smiling faces and whatnot. It was just to have a little bit of fun, and pull at the. And as you saw in the example, it was 4x3, so we played off the whole nostalgic. Because the song came out early '90s.
Early 90s, yeah.
And so that's kind of the vibe that we told people to. And then that's what another thing that encouraged the participation was. The people who participated wore wardrobes that matched the 90s trends and whatnot. And we did a 4x3. You even edited to have like the scan lines and with the, was it the workout?
The workout tape that's been like over
recorded.
Yeah.
Because if you are familiar with VHS, that was generally a thing that happened.
Yeah.
So we pulled at those strings of of nostalgia and whatnot, and we've done that before in the past for an April Fool's campaign, and we saw success with that. So when it came to this, there wasn't so much of a campaign mentality behind it. It was more so just like, yeah, we want to show off the culture, but at the same time, we want to tie in that brand style of having fun, not taking ourselves too seriously, because we did also include VBot in the video, and it's that's another thing that's recognizable to our brand. So when people did see this, the idea was like, oh, this is a funny video, because I don't know how else to take it based off of me doing these rock solid lip syncing, vocals and my awesome Carlton inspired dancing and such. So it's just like, at the end of the day, like all you could really think about is we're just trying to have fun and get a good laugh out of it, while, like I said, with the VBot and our silliness to it, just having that somewhat of association to the company's brand.
I think the side benefit, right, is that the fact that when you're producing these kinds of things and you're sending it out to your audience, hopefully they connect with you on like a different level than just like, oh, they keep sending me these general...
Well, yeah, we're not trying to sell them something, right?
Right, but the benefit of that is that, like, again, we've had emails countless times before now where people are like, this is friggin' awesome, like this like totally is like a throwback for me, or whatever. In that example, people were like, oh, this is like really cool what you guys did with this. I mean, whether or not it's like real cheese, real corn, whatever, I mean, that's kind of part of the fun. But the fact that somebody kind of like identifies with us and is like, this is why I'm doing business with you guys, or like I totally want to like kind of be aligned with a company that knows how to like not take themselves too seriously. That's kind of the side benefit of doing culture videos, right? Is that you're showing off your personality a little bit, showing that you're not robots. But people want to identify with people like that more than they do with just data on a screen, which is definitely a side benefit. So we've seen lots of positive reactions from doing this kind of thing all throughout the year, particularly when it comes to holiday stuff too. So that's definitely a big perk to doing it as well, for sure. So yeah.
And then, as you mentioned as well, it wasn't a grand production. Like we literally shot it in our library/event space that we have here, and we relied entirely on our own employees, and it just required a little bit of creativity and knowing the skills that some people have and utilizing those and making that piece, and then in our case being this all I want this season is views, a true homage to Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You.
Yeah.
So
that one's for you, Mariah.
It is. So that is one approach that we took. So I guess we can talk about a second approach.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of fun doing this one. So let's just show the example.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Here's the example.
Guys, we've been at this for hours now. How are we ever going to come up with a holiday video?
What if we had a really fun and adorable story that everybody could relate to? I have an idea. So what if there's this really sweet kid? His family accidentally leaves him at home while they go on a trip for the holidays. He can live in this really swanky house and a couple of crooks scheme to rob the place. But this kid, he has other plans. He sets up traps using his toys and other items from around the house so the would-be robbers get foiled in their plans to...
Hold on. That right there is the plot to Home Alone. And how can anybody even relate to that? How about there's this guy who's a real cheapo and he alienates himself from his family. But what happens is to help him value his family more than money, he is visited by 3 ghosts. The ghosts of the past, the ghosts of the present, and the ghost of the future to show him.
Whoa, that's a Christmas Carol. It's been done to death. I got this one. There's this classic tale about a young fella that is trying to make Christmas come together for him and his friends, but at every turn he just isn't doing it right. And then his friends turn on him. It gets better though. The friends, they see they were being sucky, and it ends with this awesome caroling session.
Yeah, that is just walking all over Charlie Brown. We need to up the excitement here, people. We need an action injection. How about this? there's this dude that has to overcome evildoers who are trying to take over a fancy party on Christmas Eve. But our hero has other plans. Face punching and gunfire ensues, and he's all like, yippee-ki-yay, mother.
Forget it. That's Die Hard. Can't we come up with anything original around here? This is hopeless. No one's getting a Christmas video this year.
Hey guys, we're waiting for you upstairs.
What's upstairs?
The ugly sweater holiday greeting video. Chris, you're wearing your sweater already. Let's go.
Yeah, my ugly sweater. Yeah?
All right, so that was, if you didn't pick up on it, was our approach on taking classic Christmas movies and putting our own spin on it and being inspired by those, and obviously having fun on just the popularity of those movies when it comes to the holiday season.
Yeah, so let's rhyme off those movies that we have in there. We have Home Alone.
Yeah, we have Home Alone.
Die Hard.
Die Hard, yeah, which is a debatable Christmas movie, or a holiday movie, sorry.
That's right, what else we got?
Then we had Christmas Carol.
Christmas Carol.
And then we had Charlie Brown's Christmas.
Bingo, yeah. And the Sidewinder in there being the Die Hard one, but we felt it was important to have that one in there because that is a closet Christmas movie.
You almost said Halloween.
I know, sorry. We're just like off the tails of
wrong season.
Yeah, exactly. Whoopsie, it's spooky. That one's like a closet holiday movie.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of part of the fun, right?
Yeah.
So we had a lot of fun doing that. Again, obviously because of like the premise, it was fun kind of like trying to recruit people in, and once they kind of saw what we were planning to do for each of their scenes, they're like, oh, that's awesome. Like from Miko to the group sitting at the table going through each of the scenarios.
Well, that's the thing right there, which is like super meta about like that video itself, is that the whole premise of that video is the team trying to determine what their holiday video is going to be.
Yeah.
And so it's the four of them listing off the ideas, but these ideas are just ideas, or they're literally just those movies that we spoofed.
Yeah, they're just playing out,
Yeah.
right, with people from our office kind of taking in those roles and stuff like that. Yeah, like we even like grabbed a smoke machine to do like the whole Home Alone like hot door handle and like the blowing hand and smoke. It was a lot of fun doing that.
And that's what I mean. And I think too, and why we picked those ones is because it kind of gave us different avenues to try different things, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think that one probably took us the longest to...
I would say so, because it required a lot more people, and then also just the different locations that we had to shoot in.
Yeah, multiple nights of doing that kind of stuff. We had to rent some stuff, which was minor, but still had to kind of facilitate that whole process, mixed with actually at the one location where we shot the Home Alone as well as the Christmas Carol footage. We had the power outage.
Yeah, we did. And that just halted production for a good, at least, what, an hour?
An hour or so, yeah. It was a larger home, kind of like...
like the...
semi-country, and just happened to be one of those nights that there was a decent gust of wind going through, and just kicked the power off. So we're like, great, like of course on all the nights we want to like record, this is the night when we have everybody lined up to be here at this house and do all this. It's like, go figure. But thankfully our homeowner and co-worker at the time was pretty gracious to just kind of like have us camp out for a bit while we kind of made our way through it. So I mean, production issues, they did come up. So,
for sure. And as we've mentioned to in other episodes, is like you kind of have to prepare for that stuff, but also at the same time, you have to just work with what you're dealt, right? With the cards that are dealt. And in that situation, we were contemplating whether it's just like, oh boy, like we gotta just reschedule. Because that, in that situation, there's really not too much you can do, given when you have no power and you need to light things up.
For sure.
But we kind of rided it out, and luckily the power came back on, and we just persevered, right?
I think that was like, and that was an opportunity where we wanted to kind of do like the whole spoof on like holiday movies, which has been kind of done before, but we wanted to do something kind of different, and that's where that whole meta scenario came from, is that we wanted to kind of like play out on multiple, and this was a good opportunity to like, or a good way of doing it, is that like we could show off multiple mini scenes from a lot of these movies while having like everything still relate back to like the group at our office environment kind of thing, just like generally trying to spitball ideas. It can otherwise just be very easy to just like play out one of those, right? Just like recreate the Charlie Brown scene.
Well, and I think too, and that was kind of the reality too at the time, it was literally our team sitting around a table, and we're all just spitballing on ideas and can't really land on one. So it's just like, well, why don't we just do an amalgamation of everything and just pull it in? Sure, like these are similar because they're all movies, but still these movies have their own themes to them, obviously.
It gave you the opportunity to add in some like cool bullet effects and stuff.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was alluding to earlier, was the fact that we had these 4 different styles, and so it definitely required more thought in the pre-production stage, like storyboarding and just figuring out how we're going to achieve these effects and such. One, obviously with Charlie Brown, like we are obviously not going to reanimate that. So we just did our best, and fortunately one of our coworkers at the time was bald and
kind of looked like Charlie Brown.
Kind of did look like Charlie Brown. And yeah, having to find that tree and finding the right props, because those are because that tree, that you know, kind of poor little saggy limpy tree is like the staple to Charlie Brown Christmas, but also to really identify that person was Charlie Brown, we needed Charlie Brown's not only bald head but his iconic shirt.
That's right.
Right, and so we found the collared shirt at a secondhand store, and then just got a Sharpie, and it kind of fit the style because obviously with it being animated and hand drawn, putting that on the shirt, we just drew it on with a Sharpie marker to achieve that zigzaggy line that he has across.
And generally speaking, I would say that's important to note is that when we're doing these things, typically it's like we are obviously busy leading up to the holidays, so a lot of this definitely has to fall in like after hours time, right? So the factors kind of working against you are time, obviously, because we're not recording these things in October. Typically we're recording these things in like December, right? So like we're kind of, by the time we do have the available time to be able to book everybody in that needs to be involved, you know what I mean, after hours, that works for everybody's schedule, and you know, finalize the idea based on their pre-production plans and then roll into production. It's not a whole lot of time that you have to actually punch this thing out. So it's not like we're producing this thing a few months ahead of time that it's going to be this major Hollywood production, but I think that's what makes it fun, is because it is still scrappy, but it's ambitious with like what we're trying to do with the time that we're given, right? Which I think was kind of like part of the fun. So you definitely are kind of burning the midnight oil to kind of like get it to that finish line, just to put it out into the world. And I think it just like breaks you out of the mold a little bit of doing kind of like the standard kind of like corporate world video stuff. So it gives, again, also the benefit as well for anybody that's choosing to do this kind of stuff. Obviously this example that we just showed was a little bit more technically involved than what probably a lot of companies are willing to do, but you can kind of go the other way of making things almost kind of like the cheap version of any of the, like if you're going to do a movie spoof, do like the comically cheap version of that and make it very obvious that you're making it like the cheap version, which is in itself pretty kind of funny. It's easy to do like comedy and that stuff if you're going to like intentionally kind of like aim to do it a little silly versus like really try to make it something that it's not, and then it just kind of comes out halfway. So I think that's kind of part of the fun, but obviously the side benefit that I was going to mention is that having everybody be a part of the production is a great opportunity for people to get an understanding as to like the time it takes. You know what I mean? For us, there's an appreciation of how long things do take. And it's like a test in patience too, because it's like people get an understanding. It's like we're not rolling on this thing like one take and we're done. We're going to do it like 4 times.
Yeah, and also too, and they also get a taste too, is that things aren't always shot in order. It's not like we're shooting the video in chronological order from, you know, start to finish. It's, we're going to shoot all these bits now, and which would be potentially be, oh, this is because the angle or whatever it be, the setting of that particular, like we need this at the beginning, middle, and end. So that's one thing too, is that that's another thing that people will see and they're not really used to when it comes to the production side of things.
For sure, throws them off.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is when it comes to these, but like when you are doing the spoofs, and that's one thing you definitely should keep in mind, is just what are you capable of doing, right?
Within the given time.
Just, well, in the given time, but just also your level of confidence and just expertise when it comes to this stuff. Yep. When we did the Christmas Carol one, we had the ghosts, and we were doing it in the sequence of the ghost. So obviously it is pretty straightforward, but some people may not know that, of doing the transparency effect of the ghost. You know, having, you know, a clean plate with nothing there, and then you shoot it with the person there, and you just lower the opacity. But doing the thing, but what we did was, knowing what the effect that we're trying to achieve going into that shoot, we had the people bounce prior and after, because the idea, because we had the puff of smoke, and the idea is that they're like kind of like bounce, and like they were cycling through each one. That matched the voice track that was being driven by the individual who was sharing this idea.
Yeah, past, present, future, all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
and so it's just being well prepared, knowing what you're trying to achieve and what you're capable of achieving. Because I'd say that one was more intense, but even with the Home Alone one, really thinking about, because that is the staple of the Home Alone movie, is the traps that he sets all throughout the house. And you got to think about how can you, so like for instance the paint can, right? Like we didn't really have the ability to string up a paint can and literally just swing it down at our colleagues, because one, we don't want to injure them, two, we didn't really have the ability to either mount something or have something accessible for us to hang the paint can off. Also, we don't want to damage or get potential paint spilt all over our colleague's house, right? So, and that's the thing, is like, sometimes you're not working with expendable things, so you got to get clever about it. And then, so that's what we did, is we just went in and we approached it when shooting it, that the thing was swinging, but then also too, we just followed the paint can with the camera, and we were just holding it, and that's when we got like the paint can point of view style, as it's swinging in toward our Harry and Marv actors. Right? And so you just got to think about those things and how you really want to achieve those effects. And as you said, right, we used the practical effect of the smoke machine. We just ran it up his sleeve, because when he grabs the door handle and then he looks at his hand, we had the tube going up his sleeve, so you couldn't see it, but you could obviously see the smoke coming from his hand, billowing out from his hand. And that's what and we obviously had access to a smoke machine. We went to Along McQuaid's, which is like a music and like production, yeah, like, so they have lights and stuff like that, and so and so smoke machine is one of the things they offer, and so we just rented it for the day. And that's all it took. So, but all I'm really getting at is just really thinking out what you're trying to achieve, and just being realistic on the ability of you being able to pull that off.
Yeah, for sure. So that was definitely a pre-production heavy one. And
So
then,
yeah,
the reason why the pre-production is so heavy is, again, as we kind of alluded to, is that then it makes the production just go by that much more quicker, because you're just kind of putting those pieces into play, and then when it comes to the edit, then it's just like it's taking all of those puzzle pieces that you've now shot and just like plopping them into position based off of preference, what you like, the visual of, whatever. But like the easiest part should be the edit to a certain degree, because of the fact that you've done all that work up front ahead of time, right? You don't want to like try and make the video when you're in the edit. Right? Because then you're like, ooh, you probably don't have what you need. It's maybe not going to be, the continuity is going to be off, whatever. You don't want to fall into that scenario, because then it's going to be kind of junky. Just think about it beforehand. Do that legwork. That's not always the most fun, but it's going to save you in the long run for the next two steps. So, yeah, and I'd say of all the holiday videos we've done and the examples we're sharing this episode, I'd say that one was probably the most production heavy. For sure. But a lot of fun too. Everybody was great. Everybody's super patient. So yeah.
So I guess another holiday video. I guess it'll be the last one, kind of based off the three that I listed before. And now we're going to be touching on a classic Christmas tale. So the one that we're going to talk about was actually before when Matt started. It was actually Vidyard's first holiday video. So we did this back when there's probably 10 of us. This is like, you know, early years, even for myself, and I was the lone video producer, and so I was doing everything by myself. So, you know, even me watching this now, it's kind of funny. But at that same side of things, it still has that meta approach because, you know, in Christmas time and you watch old Christmas videos and one of the family, like, oh, well, that was kind of
reminiscing.
You see your old rat tail or your mullet, I guess, in your situation. So when I did this video, it was the classic tale of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, and here you go, here's an example.
'Twas the day before Christmas at the Vidyard house. Computers were running by the click of a mouse. The stockings were hung by the mural with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The dev team was nestled all snug at their desks while watching videos of viral burlesque. The sales team made calls, selling the Vidyard app, while Steph made a swag pack that needed gift wrap. Then out in the driveway there arose such a clatter. Matt looked out the window to see what was the matter, when what to Matt's wondering eyes should he see? Old St. Nick, driving a slick red Ferrari. With a little old driver so lively and quick, Matt knew in a moment that it must be St. Nick. By the tap of his nose, inside the porch he came, bearing gifts for everyone, he labeled by name. To Blake, to Tyler, plus Devin Galloway. To Padrig, to Christina, and even Mitch Solway. In through the door he came, standing jolly and tall, to find he'd just interrupted Ian's sales call. He was dressed in red from his head to his toe, and the beard of his chin was as white as snow. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He began placing gifts under the Christmas tree, one after one for each Vidyard employee. Once completed, he stood up straight to turn around, to notice that the office didn't make a sound. Ian was on the phone, and Padrig captured leads, while Mitch and Steph were busy with blogs to read. Christina made graphics that made Santa say whoa, all while Blake tried to capture him on video. Up the pole St. Nick went to visit the dev team. Hacking and coding they did to the extreme. All around one table, at the website they hacked, for Santa to spot its Christmas spirit they lacked. In one moment, by the snap of his finger, Santa had the Vidyard crew make men of ginger. Together they stood, a happy startup gang, with echoes of carols in which the crew sang. Reaching for those cookies, their hands were so swift, like Santa himself, they gave each other their gift. The Vidyard house was now full with Christmas joy, carols, treats, and gifts for each little girl or boy. Things like this is what made Santa happy to see, a young group celebrating so blissfully, not because gifts were given to one another, yet that they shared quality time with each other. It was now the time for Santa Claus to leave, teaching them the Christmas spirit he did achieve. Smiling once more before realizing his winter chore, he packed up his bag and headed straight to the door. He sprang to his car and started the ignition. To a long night before, he completed his mission. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night."
So yeah, so that was our long take of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. I wasn't really thinking about shortening it. I literally took the entire story of 'Twas the Night, or the entire tale of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, and rejigged it so it was it in its entirety. So it did result in the video being pretty long, but it is what it is, all right? It is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so at that time, when I was making that, it was, and that's the thing, it was just kind of that situation of like, what are we gonna do this year? And we were very, very early stage, very young. When I say very young, I mean business-wise, and well, even I was pretty, like, this was 7 years ago, so I was pretty young. Anyways, but that's what I mean, like, there wasn't so much of, and I guess this, if you're new to this type of stuff, you may actually relate more to this, because there wasn't really much of a structure at the time, and when it came to the video production or the video sides of things, it was literally just me by myself. Everybody else had their own particular role and job to do within the business, and the holidays were coming around, and I had the opportunity to do this. I had the time on my hand to push out a holiday video. And so I went about that, and as you may notice, I completely rejigged the lines in the tail, and working off of essentially no budget. I think the only money that went into this production was, so we did, if you didn't notice, our voiceover was a Morgan Freeman impersonator. I don't even know whose idea it was to get a Morgan Freeman impersonator to read it.
Yeah.
It just
felt right.
It just seemed funny and the right thing to do. So we went on Fiverr.com, and we found a Morgan Freeman impersonator, and it was a bit more. I want to say it was like $20 because it was longer than what they were offering for the $5, but I would say the extent of the budget, it wasn't even budget, it was more me going to the CFO and being like, hey, can I get some money just to pay off this Morgan Freeman impersonator for a voiceover video I'm working on? They got a chuckle out of it, and they're like, sure, Merry Christmas, Blake.
Yeah, here's $20. Can I have $20?
So that happened, and I think that's all it really was. When it came down to it, when I was writing it, I made the story to incorporate everyone in the business. And when it came to this, the idea was to really just highlight each individual and touch on what they did. And it also played off some of the jokes and some of the things that just happened in the company at the time that were more inside jokes. And so when the company, and this kind of goes back to when I was mentioning that not only are these videos for external, they also work internally too. So when your fellow colleagues do watch it, they all themselves can get a good chuckle out of it.
Yeah. Imagine trying to do like a video now that it's more than 10 people, for example, like of the company, being like, oh, there's over 200 of us. Like trying to give each person like a spotlight in the video, be like, ooh,
yeah, exactly.
See you in 2 hours.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of the tricky part now, making a culture video when you're at about 200 people versus 10 to 15 people. You want to work in as many people as you can. Yeah. So at that stage, when we were only, like I said, 10 to 15 people, it's much easier to work people in versus now, and that's kind of the trick too. So when it comes to that pre-production stage, and when you're coming up with that idea, what is the best way to come up with an idea, and how do you sprinkle in as many employees or colleagues as possible, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and so that's what I mean. So when doing that, and that's what it was. It was this house. We worked at a house at a time that we pretty much gutted and turned it into an office space. And that's what it was. We just kind of played off each individual. Our CEO played Santa. And it was actually after the actual shoot happened, and that's the thing. Is at the time it was all just for giggles, all just for laughs, and we're just having fun with it. There wasn't anything like at all of us like taking ourselves seriously. Yeah. But the CEO was like, "Hey, why don't we work in a Ferrari? What if Santa drives a Ferrari?"
A red one.
A red one,
Yeah.
given that's his color. And I was like, sure. But like how? And he knew someone who had a Ferrari, so they were able to lend us the Ferrari for a short period of time just to get the shots that we needed. And then and this wasn't even scripted, it was, and again, this kind of happens when you're in production, is that things kind of come out of left field and you just run with it. But Mike was like, oh, why, like, given we have such a sexy looking car, like, why don't we like insert a little like compilation, and also, again, just having fun with it. Get some like, sexy B-roll of this car, like close-up shots and whatnot. And then at the time, dubstep was funny, so he's like, and so we just, threw in some dubstep, cut some shots, had Santa doing a burnout in a Ferrari in an empty parking lot. Like, there's just us, because we had a Ferrari accessible to us. How often do you have a Ferrari accessible just for the holiday video, right?
Take advantage. That's a sweet sleigh for Santa to have.
Yeah, and so we played off that, and just had fun with it. And at the end of the day, and that's what I mean. And then even when it came to the parts with the gifts, like literally no budget. So we used like Christmas boxes that I think we had budget for that. But again, they're from the dollar store. And what I was using in the one shot, the graphic designer opens it up. And what I used as the decoration was like a hand towel from the kitchen, because it had like that pattern, the plaid pattern to it. A pair of our Vidyard branded sunglasses, which were terrible, by the way. They were so dark. And my iPhone.
Right.
And that was the gift that she got, and super janky. Like, but hey, it served the purpose of what I was trying to get across. It worked. Obviously we weren't as recognized, we weren't as broad at the time, so even just the footprint that we were making in terms of who we were reaching out to, they enjoyed the video. They got a laugh out of it.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, like, it was us just having fun, showcasing who was in the business at the time and who did what. This video was more so to introduce people at the company opposed to the company itself, right?
Yeah.
So it was fun, and and the one shot at the very end too, like it worked out perfectly because it just played off the whole Ferrari thing. It was the shot of, it was the, like, I can't remember the line. It's something to all a good night, and it's Santa going off with the reindeer. Well, in this one, it's him in the Ferrari, and I'm low, and it's like me on the license plate, and the Ferrari like zooms off. And it wasn't even planned, but like these are the types of things when in production that you don't plan but actually make it into the edit, is that we had the car, like antlers and Rudolph nose. So we applied that to the car, but he peeled out, and one of the antlers like came flying off as he peeled out and pulled off into the distance. And it was just like one of those things where it just like obviously played off the humor of this fast car and whatnot. So
the decals are all flying off.
Yeah, it was so it was like that actually works. And so when it came to the editing the video together, it worked. It actually made it in. So I think really the takeaway from this example is really like because you see the camera that I used in it. It was, I believe, just my T2i, Canon Rebel T2i with a Rode video mic. Like that's all it was. I had no lighting. I was just used the lighting in the office at the time, house converted to an office. And that was really it. but I guess at the end of the day, like I didn't have to rely on the microphone because it was just voiceover driven with the background music. Yeah. So at the end of the day, like it really shows that you can bang out an entertaining piece, whether it's external and or internal. You can bang something out that will get a laugh, that will entertain people, and it doesn't require. Well, I guess I had a $20 budget because I got a voiceover, but you don't need that. But at the same time, like you could, because that's the thing is like you can probably get away with what I did in that video with your cell phone camera or something like that.
Totally. At the end of the day, I think all you're looking to do is kind of like entertain your customers, send out a nice little message going into the holidays, and yeah, show off the personality, have a little fun. Hopefully they resonate with that and they're not offended by the fact that you're sending them some kind of entertaining piece of content that isn't entirely business driven. And yeah, maybe that'll mean that they want to do a little bit more business with you in the future because they kind of enjoy the fact that you're willing to go to do something like that and have a little bit of fun versus just kind of be stuffy corporate.
Well, yeah, and then like as I was saying, how it introduces these individuals and what they do within the company.
Particularly for such a small company.
Well, yeah, and then say for the individuals who were customers at the time, who like dealt with that sales manager or support or whatever. They actually got to see a face to the name, and because when they watched it, they'd be like, "Oh, well, that's Ian because he's in sales, and he was pretty much." Well, I'd say we had 2 sales people at the time, and yeah, and it's essentially them making the sales calls, and so for those people who did, at some point, I'm sure, have some interaction with Ian, and so
like, oh, that's the guy.
That's Ian, and the same thing, and like the developers behind it, and or seeing, you know, like our website and the design work that has done, and you actually see who was making that stuff. So, like I said, it really focused on just highlighting these individuals in the company and allowed our external audience to know us by face and name, really.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I think we kind of discussed the purposes of doing this, and hopefully it kind of gives you a little bit of inspiration as to maybe some avenues that you can take, depending on the size of your business, how much time you have. And it obviously doesn't have to be just for this holiday. It can be for anything. You know, we touch on all the even like the smaller holidays that seem like funny niche ones that just kind of like everybody experiences through the year that are just kind of goofy. But maybe you can reframe something around that to do as a culture video for your company, and it really just kind of like you know, brings people in to your business in a different kind of light. Besides just kind of like sending them the marketing jargon or sales jargon, right? Just putting something out there for the sake of putting it out is sometimes what pulls in an interested party, which is kind of a great thing. And again, just showing off your personality, people really get an idea for who is behind the scenes of that brand. So I think it's really cool.
Yeah, and I think those 3 examples that we shared, like they really touch on. They each touch on different things that you can think about when approaching your production, whether it's relying and depending on your colleagues to, you know, come through and you know, help you put together this piece, or really, you know, buckling down and thinking about the pre-production and what you have accessible to you in terms of experience and ability, and just really thinking about how you can go about achieving these, you know, one-ups or the next step in terms of production, because maybe you are trying to achieve a particular effect. But then also too, the last example of "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" really just shows that you really don't need any top-tier level of equipment to get something out there in front of your audience's eyes.
That's right. Effectively, at the end of the day, have some fun with it, flex those creative muscles, have a little bit of fun, get people involved, and yeah, send it out to the world. And yeah, if you have any questions at any point about producing a culture video, some do's and do nots or anything going forward, contact us. Let us know what you're thinking. We are contactable. We are out there in the world. Find us.
And lastly, as Matt was listing things off, he did forget one thing.
What?
Have a happy holiday.
Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Bye.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Video Island podcast brought to you by Vidyard. You can subscribe to the audio version on your favorite podcast platform or check out more videos here.